All right, so you're pumped for the new Captain America flick, right? But maybe a little hesitant to drop those hard-earned bucks without a sneak peek, yeah.
A little intel never hurt anybody.
Exactly. No need to worry, though, because we're diving deep into the early reviews of Brave New World. And let me tell you, those signals from the critics, well, they're about as clear as mud.
It really is a head-scratcher. We've got this film projected to pull in a massive 190 million globally on opening weekend.
190 million, wow.
Yeah, with about half of that coming from the US alone. But then you look at the reviews and, well, let's just say they're not exactly glowing.
It's wild, right? This is Sam Wilson's first true outing as Captain America, his solo debut on the big screen, and he's dealing with a huge international incident, a mysterious figure pulling the strings.
Classic superhero stuff. You'd think it would be a slam dunk.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, we've got Harrison Ford making his grand entrance into the MCU as President Ross. I mean, come on.
That's got to be a draw for at least some viewers, right? Ford's a legend. But the question remains, will the movie actually live up to the hype? And even more importantly, will your average moviegoer even care what the critics are saying?
It does make you wonder. So let's just rip off the Band-Aid and talk about this whole Rotten Tomatoes score situation.
Because, yeah, it's getting a little interesting over there.
That's one way to put it. Right now, Brave New World is sitting at a measly 52% on the tomato meter.
Oof, that's not great. And if we zoom out a bit, that score puts the film on the verge of becoming only the third Marvel movie to be slapped with that dreaded rotten label.
Joining the less than stellar company of Eternals and Quantumania.
Precisely. Now, whether that translates into a box office bomb, who knows? But it's definitely something fans are talking about.
It's definitely raising eyebrows.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, does a rotten score actually matter these days? I mean, we've all seen movies that get completely trashed by critics but still rake in millions.
It's almost like a badge of honor for some movies.
Right? So bad it's good, that kind of thing. Still, it does make you curious about what exactly those critics are seeing that's turning them off.
Well, let me tell you, we went digging through those reviews, and it's a real mixed bag.
Some of them are brutal, no holds barred. Like the Times over in the UK. They gave it a 1-star review, called the entire MCU, get this, a bloated, constipated stupor.
Ouch, that's gotta sting.
No kidding. And Collider wasn't much kinder. They said Brave New World has more in common with Sony's disastrous Marvel movies than anything the MCU has done before.
Yikes. Those are some pretty harsh words. But then you've got publications like Deadline praising Mackey's performance and saying the film has potential. Empire magazine called it pacey and punchy, though they did admit there were a few awkward moments that kept it from being truly great.
So is there like a common thread running through all these reviews? What's the general consensus?
Well, the biggest criticisms seem to be focused on the plot, the pacing, and this feeling that it lacks originality. Yeah, some reviewers, like IGN, even went so far as to say it feels like a rehash of Winter Soldier. They argue that it doesn't do enough to really distinguish Sam's Captain America from Steve Rogers' legacy.
So it's like they like the actors, they like the action, but the story itself just isn't quite hitting the mark.
That seems to be the recurring theme, yeah.
See, that's what makes me wonder, is this a sign of like, I don't know, some bigger MCU fatigue setting in?
Or are these just issues specific to this film?
Yeah, exactly. It's tough to tell for sure.
It's a complicated thing, and I'm not sure it's fair to just throw the fatigue label around.
Right.
It could be that Brave New World just doesn't resonate with critics the way some of the other MCU movies have.
Maybe they're like overthinking it a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a superhero movie. At the end of the day, are we really expecting some groundbreaking cinematic masterpiece?
That's a good point.
Right.
I think it comes down to expectations. People walk into superhero movies with a certain set of, assumptions. They're looking for action, humor, maybe a little bit of heart.
And a good story to tie it all together.
Exactly.
So maybe Brave New World delivers on those things, even if it's not breaking any new ground.
That's certainly possible, but then we have to circle back to those box office numbers, remember?
Oh yeah, those are still through the roof.
Exactly. You can't just ignore a potential $190 million opening weekend. It raises the question, can a movie be a financial success and still be considered like a critical failure? Or, the other way around, does critical acclaim actually guarantee a good time for the average viewer?
Man, that's like the age-old debate, right?
It is. And it's especially relevant in this era where superhero movies dominate the box office.
So true. We've all seen those superhero movies that totally divide critics and audiences. one person's trash is another person's treasure, as they say.
It's all subjective, right? And it's worth remembering that tastes change over time.
Oh, yeah. A movie that bombs today could be considered a classic in a few years.
Exactly. Imagine someone watching like Batman and Robin for the first time today with no idea about its reputation. They'd probably think it was the worst thing they had ever seen.
Definitely. But when it comes to Brave New World, it's still early days. It's too soon to tell what its lasting impact will be.
We'll just have to wait and see how the general audience reacts. I think, regardless of what the critics are saying, there's no denying the excitement surrounding this film. People are really eager to see Sam Wilson take on the Captain America mantle.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of curiosity about how he'll portray the character, especially after, the somewhat mixed response to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Even with all these less than stellar reviews, I'm still kind of excited to see it for myself.
I get it. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut and experience it firsthand, form your own opinion.
Totally. Reviews can be helpful, but they shouldn't be the only thing that influences your choices.
Right. And that brings us back to the whole landscape of superhero films, Audiences have gotten pretty discerning these days.
For sure. They have high expectations.
They do, and they're not afraid to voice their opinions, whether they love something or hate it.
Which is honestly a good thing. It keeps the studios on their toes.
Totally. It pushes them to innovate, to push the boundaries of the genre.
And hopefully that leads to more amazing superhero movies down the line. But for now, we've got Brave New World to think about.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride based on our deep dive into the reviews.
Maybe so, but hey, it could still be a fun ride, even with a few bumps.
That's the spirit.
Okay, so we've talked about how Brave New World seems to be like walking this tightrope between Sam Wilson's new take on Captain America and, well, the legacy of Steve Rogers.
It's a tricky balance to strike.
Right. And, speaking of expectations, that title, Brave New World, it's a pretty bold choice, don't you think?
It definitely sets a high bar, and it raises a good question, one we can throw out to our listeners. With a title like Brave New World, does the movie kind of have a responsibility to actually be groundbreaking? Or can it just, stick to that tried and true MCU formula?
That's exactly it. It's like, are they trying to say this is a completely new direction for the franchise? Or is it just a catchy title to get us in the door?
Well, that's for you, dear listener, to decide, but it's definitely something to think about while you're watching. Pay attention to how the movie handles those themes of legacy, of change, of what it means to be a hero in this new world.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. You can be looking out for that.
It always helps to watch with a critical eye, especially with these big franchise movies.
Okay, so to wrap things up, it sounds like Brave New World is a bit of a mystery, huh?
Wrapped in an enigma and topped with a vibranium shield.
Huh. Yeah, the critics are all over the place, but the box office predictions are saying it's going to be huge. I guess it really comes down to each individual viewer, right? Whether they think it's worth checking out.
Absolutely. We've given you the information, the different perspectives, the analysis. Now it's your turn to be the judge.
And hey, once you've seen it, come back and let us know what you thought. Did it live up to the hype? Did it totally subvert your expectations?
We always love to hear from our listeners, so tell us everything. What stuck out to you? What questions do you still have?
All right, that's it for us this week. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
¿Cuidas la salud de tu tracto urinario? Uticarin, el suplemento dietético con múltiples ingredientes naturales que favorecen tu bienestar. Es hora de sentirte mejor, más saludable y en control. Haz clic en el enlace de la descripción y cuida de tu bienestar hoy mismo.
Suscríbete a Noticias sin Fronteras para estar siempre informado de los últimos acontecimientos. No olvides dejar tu comentario y ser parte de la conversación. Tu opinión es importante para nosotros.